Wow, you made it to the fourth video. Okay, notches, what are they? Walking the pattern, what is that? Some of you know, some of you don't. So we're going to explore some of the things that you would do before you actually start your grading. So hold on to your seats because this is something that you probably don't know you can do in CLO3D, and it's part of pattern making. So hold on to your seats. Now we're starting with our, still back in the 1820 muslin. I'm just going to pull it around a little bit. I know I keep saying 85% because I can see the imperfections, but we're going to talk about that when we do our grading at the end of the video. And if you made it this far, I've decided as I'm editing this that I'm going to give away something at the last video if you've completed all of them. So if you make it to the last video and you watch the grading video, which I'm saving the best for last, I'm going to give away something for the year 2022. It's almost that time, guys. So here we're going to talk about points, notches, walking the pattern, cleaning it up, making sure that it's ready for grading. So in your 2D window, you can see that there are these yellow points, which are the black points. When you highlight a pattern piece, it turns yellow, and those are the little yellow points. Those will be known as your grading points. So your grading points is what the computer will use to actually manipulate your pattern into a different size. So those will be the parametric mathematics will be applied to those black points. So we want to make sure that we don't have so many black points. So now after I finish pulling this thing around and figuring out that this is the best of the best that we're going to get, there are things that I notice, and I tried during this video not to digress into too many different points. So when you click on your point tool and your notch tool, it will show you, actually your notching tool, it will show you where all of your points are, even your curve points. So the little brown points are the curve points. So we want to make sure that we reduce the number of points for the pattern because it is better for the actual grading system. So we want to delete the curve points. We want to just keep them curved. We want to make them better, and we want to make the curves better. So we're not going to change too much because we've already done our measurements. So we're just going to kind of move a few things around and make sure that these points are not grade points. Later on, you see that there's a reason to change them to grade points, but right now we're just going to keep these and make sure that where we have our notches right now, we're going to go ahead and start deleting them all because I want to show you how we get to those notches and where they actually go and why they actually go to the places that they do. So right now I'm just going to go through and I'm deleting all of the grade point notches. What are notches? When you cut a 2D pattern into fabric, the notches are sewing guides. So the notches actually tell the sewer where to go from point to point on your pattern pieces, and those points actually should match. So your notch at your front and back, left and right, whatever it is at your center front, neckline, shoulder, wherever you have these darts, that's where those two pieces should meet up when they're sewing. So you have to actually pretend to sew and place the notches where they go. So when I say pretend to sew, I don't mean your sewing lines. So in another video, you notice that the sewing lines actually have notches on them. Well, you can use that notch as a sewing point, but that is not where the actual notches go. The actual notches go where your grade points are, or in between the grade points when you have a curve. You can place a notch there because it kind of gives you a guide as to how much ease that you need on the fabric from piece to piece in order to meet together. So there are different types of notches. Usually in the back you'll have two notches, and most notches on paper patterns or regular patterns are the diamond shaped notches or the V notches. Those are notches that people are used to. You can do a T notch, you could do an I notch. In CLO, you can actually drop down and choose whichever notch that you want. So now let's talk about walking the pattern. So right on the side here, there is your walking the pattern button. So you're going to take it from point to point, and then you will click enter into that point. And as you scroll up on the actual line, you will see that both of my points meet. Here at the top. Not so much. Let's zoom in a little bit so we can see. So I can see that there is probably less than 1/8 of an inch off, but I want to go ahead and correct that before I start grading, because as the sizes grow, so will that distance difference. So we want to make sure that everything is precisely matched. So as you can tell, this has nothing to do with my sewing line notches. So sometimes I might have said before to use that as your notch, but really in true pattern making, you need to go ahead and walk this pattern and fix any slight nuances before you start to grade. Because when you're starting grading and everything is not matched up, that difference will exponentially grow as your pattern grows or decreases. It will follow that same mathematical outcome. So what you want to do is go ahead and fix it as you walk each style. So like I said, arrow leads point to point, and then you can go ahead and zoom in and see how close you are. So right now it looks like I've improved that a little bit by increasing the side seam on the front part of the pattern. So now I can go ahead and make notches accordingly. So now where the points meet is where I've placed the notches. For your sleeve, you do the same thing. For your front sleeve, you go arrow to arrow, and then you follow that line along. Now I only have a point at the front of the sleeve, but that's actually where the sleeve curve is. So I want to go ahead and put a notch on both sides. So as you can see to the left, the pattern that's highlighted in blue, it actually has the notch placed. But right here is where I have my sleeve ease showing. So I don't give a dart right there, but I notice that I have like 1/8 of an inch for my sleeve ease. So I don't adjust that pattern. I just go ahead and check the back and make sure that I have the same amount of ease on the back. So if I have the same amount of ease plus or minus, then I know my sleeve will fit. So I'm going to go ahead and notch both patterns. And as you can see in the back, I have a double notch. So what I notice is that I have a double notch on the sleeve and a double notch on the back. That is telling the sewer which side of the pattern is the front and which side is the back. So I'm going to go ahead and fix the rest of this, and then we'll come back and talk about what we found. Okay, so this is nearly done. Looks like my darts match, my waistline notches are there. I can go ahead and put notches in my sewing lines for this because I know that my sewing lines are even. And at this point, I've gotten all the other things that are a little bit off balance together. So we can go ahead and make some of those notches using the sewing lines if you want. Or you can just follow the same method that we did previously. For the dart legs, I can actually do that, and it will just tell you where to sew, because you can't really walk the dart, but those are some of the things. So those are two different ways that you can add darts. You can choose the type of darts. You can see that bottom of the skirt, I have some some V darts there. V notches, but otherwise I'm just using the T notches, which work just the same. Okay. And I is a little bit different. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this because I really don't need a dart on a corner point because it's obvious where it stops. So for the armhole, I noticed that this line is not pretty much what I like. So I'm going to go ahead and start to fix some of these shapes, and I'm going to use my smooth line out, and I'm going to go ahead and just take that little jut out. But pretty much now that everything is basically matched, notched, the seams matched, it's time for me to take this one pattern and start to assign my sizes for grading. So basically what you do is you go to your grading module. Once this simulates again for the last time, we're going to start to assign our sizes and move forward into grading this pattern. So I am highlighting the entire pattern, but first I'm going to go ahead and make sure that I have size 6 as my base size. I have size 8, but I don't have anything assigned to size 8. So basically the single solo pattern that you're working on will be your base size. So either sizes will go up or down accordingly. So basically I made a little bit of an error here that will probably carry out through the whole thing, but at least if you see it, then you will know not to do what I did. But right now we're just working on the base size, size 6. So I did add a size, but the size 8 is not the base size. So right now what you're looking at is the size 6, and I can go ahead and start to work on building out a grade roll.